Reimagining Success, episode 148. You're listening to Reimagining Success, the podcast where we help you reimagine your future, designing a life and career beyond the 9 to 5 that allows you the freedom, flexibility and fulfillment that you've been dreaming of. I'm your host, Anna Lundberg. Now, let's get started on those dreams. Hello there, and welcome back to the Reimagining Success podcast. I'm your host, Anna Lundberg, and I want to already right away from the get-go, in case you stop listening for whatever reason, give you access to my new resource that I've created. So it's a roadmap for escaping the 9 to 5, the 10 steps for transitioning out of your corporate full-time role and into working for yourself. You can get the roadmap at onestepoutside.com/roadmap. That's onestepoutside.com/roadmap. So especially if you're at the beginning of the process, I really hope this will be an invaluable resource to give you an indication, at least, of the kind of process this will involve, the different stages, those 10 steps. Of course, there are little mini steps in between, and it may not be a completely linear process, especially if you go through lots of trial and error, you're juggling a full-time job and everything else in your life and so on. But I hope, again, it gives you an idea of the scope, the things you need to be considering, you should be considering, you could consider, and the order in which to take these steps. So again, you can get the roadmap at onestepoutside.com/roadmap. In the meantime, I want to provide a bit more context to this. Whether you're new to the community or you've been listening for a while, you can't have avoided, I guess, hearing and seeing and experiencing the past year and now in the last few months, the talk of this so-called great resignation, with more and more people considering leaving their perhaps comfortable, secure careers behind, despite all the economic uncertainty, to actually maybe pursue their passion, to change career direction, to start their own business. And, you know, there are many different factors that are pushing people out of the 9 to 5, as it were. Excessive workload, work-family conflict, maybe less of that job security than we had in the past. Certainly our parents, grandparents who had this job for life, the pension and so on, that's no longer guaranteed or even desirable, in my opinion. So, you know, there are those factors pushing people out. In fact, I just had a comment on a YouTube video just today from someone saying, you know, the management in their workplace had handled the pandemic very badly. Skills and staff shortages hadn't been managed well, not knowing the context, but unfortunately that had led to a lot of burnout. And in this case, this person had chosen to leave that environment. Now, that's the negative side, I suppose, pushing people out. There are also many drivers pulling people towards a better alternative, a more hopeful future, craving more control over their future career direction, looking for that flexibility that maybe you've been experiencing during the pandemic and now you want more, and also longing to do more meaningful work that ultimately is making an impact in a different way perhaps than the job that you were doing previously or that you are doing now. So if you are considering leaving your corporate job to work for yourself, then you can take comfort in the fact that you're not alone. However, of course, at the same time, you may feel frustrated that you haven't made it happen yet. And it's not surprising, so please don't give yourself a hard time. There are so many things that can get in the way. You might stay where you are simply because you don't know what you want to do instead. It's one thing to know, hey, I don't want to do this anymore, but then if not this, then what? What is the alternative to the 9 to 5? What could I possibly do? What does my skill set and background allow me to do? What do I want to do? What is even out there, right? So that's a big question and big barrier. It's also very exciting because you have all this possibility in front of you. You might also be discouraged, unfortunately, by other people's negativity. People tend to project their own fears and insecurities. Well-meaning friends and family are worried for your welfare, ostensibly, and so they are themselves maybe worried about their own job security, and they also maybe have that hankering after a different kind of life and career. And the fact that you're beginning to consider that could shake the ground on which their confidence and identity is built. So completely understandable that they're projecting their fears and being negative. But of course, that can really affect you and reinforce the fears you have internally as well. Speaking of fears and confidence, you might not even believe it's possible, right? There's still this belief that, hey, it's more secure, more stable, more lucrative to have a job than it is to take the risk of being an entrepreneur. And you might not believe that it's possible to replace your full-time salary, maintain your lifestyle, your quality of life, while also, let's face it, which we want to do as well, working fewer hours. So that's a big belief that could be holding you back. Or also, probably the case for most of you, you might not have the time or energy left at the end of the day after having your full-time job, after take care of the kids, after doing your hobbies. And if you get to do that, all the life admin is really draining me at the moment. All the cleaning and housework and fitness and health and cooking and dating and relationships and whatever else that you're doing in your life, right? So it is hard to carve out that time. So again, this resource, the roadmap, I can't promise you that it's going to give you that magical solution, ta-da. Unfortunately, it's never going to be that simple, but I do want to give you that overview of the most important things that you need to consider so you can avoid some of those common pitfalls and really start thinking practically about how you're going to make this escape happen. Now, I should say, if you want to skip over this, or if you've been trying for a long time, you haven't been able to make it happen, then of course I'm here to help you do just that. If you know that you want to work with someone, if you've been part of my community for a while, following me, then please, I really encourage you to book a call with me. You can book that at onestepoutside.com/call. Pretty simple. You can DM me, PM me, send me a message on whatever social platform we're connected. Get in touch. Let's get on the phone and let's talk about how I can support you through that process, because I'm here. That is why I'm here. That is what I do. And I'd love to help you make this happen now. In the meantime, I wanted to talk you through the first few steps of this roadmap, and then hopefully you'll be able to download that and get the detail and get the full steps. But I wanted to focus on the first one, which I think is really important. Now, funnily enough, when I got feedback from my community on this resource, I had wanted to start with this first step. I then actually decided, hey, maybe I should start a bit more practically. Maybe we should look at finances first. But then thankfully, I got the feedback that no, that comes later. You have to start with this first step. And I'm really glad that that feedback came in, because I 100% agree. It's what I always say. I've done an episode on why this is the first step. And so without further ado, step one is to allow yourself the time and space to explore, to imagine, to fantasize, to dream, to understand who you are, what you want, what's important, your values, to understand what you want from a big picture perspective, to understand your why. What is your bigger purpose that's driving you? What are the things you love doing? What are the things you're great at? The things you care about? What's your ikigai, your purpose? And this is, big picture, philosophical, meaning of life kind of questions, but also right down to the nitty gritty of understanding, hey, what do I want my day to day to look like? How is it going to look? How do I want it to look with all the other things, and really getting clear on that before you launch yourself into a new career, right? Understanding your push reasons for wanting to leave, understanding your pull reasons for, being drawn towards this different kind of lifestyle, life and career. So really, before you even begin to filter your ideas, take action, narrow down your options, make any kind of decisions, give yourself space, whether on holiday, at the weekend, over lunchtime, in the evenings and the mornings. It can take hours, weeks, days, months, whatever you want it to take. Allow yourself to expand your horizons, imagine the possibilities, dream big, and then later on we can narrow down the options and get more practical, right? So you can filter for feasibility later, but I don't want you to start limiting yourself before you've even begun. So that's step one, is to explore. Step two then is this more prosaic maths piece, which is really getting a black on white, pen on paper, whatever you want to call it, view of your financial situation. So that, let's face it, we are going to leave behind what is most likely a pretty nice salary and generous benefits. And you may be, depending on where you are in your life and career, you may be very much, or probably are very much, tied up in the lifestyle that's associated with that. I did an interview just a few weeks ago with somebody who was saying, hey, I've got 3 kids in private school now, so I'm pretty tied into this particular income cycle. So you have to be pretty damn sure that you can generate that income and support your family also with a business. Now, of course you can, but it can take time, and that sets quite a high bar versus, let's say, as I was back in 2013, I was single, no ties, I was renting a cheap flat, I could get rid of that relatively easily, I had a lot of savings and so on, right? So your financial situation is absolutely crucial to making this happen. It's not that it will be impossible, it's just that the timing, the scope, the criteria will vary depending on where you are. And that's on two sides of the equation, right? It's the salary that you need, the income, And that's to do with your savings, your expenses, your lifestyle. And on the other side, it is the expenses, in fact, that you have. Now, initially, it's your current expenses in terms of your life expenses, I guess, your bills to pay, your groceries, your mortgage, rent, and all these things, right? Childcare and so on, school fees, maybe if it's private school and so on, insurance and so on. Then there are additional things that you'll need to pay for that perhaps won't be covered anymore, right? Because you no longer have that employer providing the insurance, the healthcare and so on, the gym membership, the pension, and so on. And then you also have business expenses in terms of taxes and so on, right? So the actual number you need to be earning is going to be actually higher in terms of sales revenue, gross numbers, than your take-home salary at the moment in order to get that same take-home salary. So not to get into the nitty-gritty of this, but just to say that this is absolutely step 2. After you've dreamed big, so I don't want you to do this first, as I said. I want you to really dream big first. But then, hey, let's do a little check to see where we are. You could be pleasantly surprised. And if not, at least you've checked and you have a good idea now of the situation before you take some undue risk, which of course you don't want to do. So that's step 2, do the maths. And step 3 is to define your criteria. So, step 1 is big picture. I love this. I want to do that. I had this idea, all these ideas. Now we've seen where we are financially. Now, finances will be one of your criteria, but there may be other criteria, right? So the number of hours and days you want to work, the flexibility you want, the extent of travel, what are the really practical criteria, as well as some more subjective things like, hey, I want to feel aligned with the work I'm doing. I want to work with clients I really enjoy working with, and other sort of more intuitive sense checks. So getting clear on what's non-negotiable, what's important, but hey, could be compromised on, and what's sort of a nice to have. That's step 3. And I'm going to leave you with step 4 because I think that's a nice way to sort of round this out. And then again, you can get the full resource at onestepoutside.com/roadmap. Number 4 is to set a date and work backwards. Of course, the $1 million question is always, hey, should I start by building my business alongside my job? Should I quit, go all in? And there's no right or wrong answer here. Again, it depends on your own situation. Timing wise, I always say, about a year is reasonable as a time frame to go from, okay, I'm going to start getting clear on my idea. What am I going to do? Choose the business model, start building that, building your personal brand, building your pipeline of clients and so on, and getting in those first clients. And when I work with my clients, that's sort of the time frame, especially if you're just at the beginning of the journey again. If you're further along, I have clients who, already have their business, and it's just a matter of ramping that up to the point that they feel confident enough to be able to have that pipeline of clients and to be able to let go of the full-time job. But if you haven't got the business up and running yet, a year, it seems like a long time, I know. But remember, we're in it for the long haul. A year is not that much time if you break it down into how many hours you have a day, a week to work on this. You have a full-time job. You're going to have ups and downs in your energy. Life happens, illness, holiday, and so on, right? So rather than say, hey, I'm going to do this in a month or, 6 weeks or 3 months or whatever, and then you fail, rather give yourself the full year. And hey, if, as sometimes happens, you do it more quickly, that's amazing. That's fantastic. But if not, then we've got that buffer. We've got the stability and the time to be able to build the foundations over time and be able to sail off into sunset when we're ready, right? So setting a date, give yourself, hey, okay, by December, by this time next year. In fact, something a lot of my clients do is draft their resignation letter. You don't have to send it, but put it up on your board so you have that as a reminder for what you're working towards. You can still, a year from now, decide, hey, actually, I don't want to quit my job either. This business isn't working, I don't love it, or I've got an amazing role now in the office and actually I want to stay there forever. I never want to escape the 9 to 5. That's fine. That's your prerogative. But at least you have that then, you have that time frame, you have a deadline. The risk is otherwise that you'll lose focus, you'll procrastinate, and you just keep postponing indefinitely, right? So setting a date and working backwards, giving yourself milestones, making sure you're focusing on the right things, that's number 4. And I'll stop there because I don't want to give you the whole secret process, all the 10 steps right now. But again, you can get the resource at onestepoutside.com/roadmap. And if you listen for a few more minutes, you'll also get an invitation to join me, of course. Again, if you know that you want to work with me, I'd love to have you join us in the Business Incubator to take that year together. It's a year-long incubator to take your idea or ideas, really evolve them, grow them, strengthen them, turn them into robust, viable business ideas. clarify the business model, get that in place, build your personal brand, and get those first clients coming in, or enough clients coming in, so that you can say, ciao, bella, to your job if that's what you want to do. Thanks so much for listening. Have a listen to that in the next few minutes, and I will see you next week on the Reimagining Success podcast. Thanks so much for listening. Bye for now. If you'd like to create your own transition story and escape the 9-to-5 to work for yourself, then come and join us over in the Business Incubator. This is a comprehensive online program and community designed to give you the roadmap that you need to help you figure out what you really want to do, come up with a workable plan, and take the right steps to achieve it. Read more and join us over on onestepoutside.com/9-to-5. That's onestepoutside.com/9-to-5.